Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Ask DeAnna Anything. Today is super exciting because DeAnna is streaming in from Portugal. This is so great. But first, I'll do a little introduction. So, welcome to Ask DeAnna Anything. DeAnna Batdorf is an Ayurvedic practitioner, my body educator, lymphatic specialist, and DeAnna Essentials formulator. And here at Ask DeAnna Anything, nothing is TMI for DeAnna. And our mission at DeAnna Essentials is to be a place for all people to heal, learn, and grow. We provide a community of support to empower individuals with knowledge, tools, and skills for their optimal well-being. So that's great. And welcome, DeAnna. We are so excited to have you on today from the Azores in Portugal. Do you want to share a bit about where you are and how things are going?
Yeah, wowee. So, as you can see, my hair is down. I'm in casual mode.
Yes.
I'm not working for a couple days while I prepare to do my entire clinical course for 24 days. So, I am here on the island of St. George. One of my TAs, her heritage is from here, and she is on this leg of the trip with us. So we are actually spending time on the island with a whole lot of natives and people
Mm,
who go back for multiple generations and have inherited their homes from generation to generation to generation, these beautiful old stone cottages. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I have the beautiful, beautiful Atlantic Ocean right behind me. And just
mm,
like, oh, I'm in lush, beautiful land. And you can feel the ancestors here. You can feel the depth of keeping this island quiet and
mm,
calm and very tame in what we think of as kind of our normal world is not normal here. And it
mm.
makes it just incredibly, incredibly exciting, to be an
Mm,
old world.
totally. That's so special. I feel like being in really place places, that's where we really remember all of these incredibly healing ways of life. The foods and the herbs and the just taking walks or spending time with family and the things that make life inherently healthy and juicy and amazing. Mm. Have you had any
Yeah.
good food since being there?
Well, the most important food in Portugal is caldo verde, and it's a beautiful green soup. And so that has been really wonderful. But mostly, I've had bacalhau, which is the salted cod, and
Mm.
just mostly I've been fed by Anna's auntie, and so I mean, it's like why go to a restaurant when you got an auntie? So, it's been pretty exciting and super down home, and, yeah, I'm enjoying that very much.
Mm, that's great. And then just one more kind of intro question. Have you had any reflections back on your life and work here since being there and any ideas that are starting to emerge for things you might want to share with folks back in Sonoma County or in the US when you return? Too soon to tell.
I think I've only been here 2 days. It might be a little too soon to know. What I do
Mhm.
find very interesting is, one of, Anna's really good friends from childhood, because she hasn't been here in over 30 years, and so one of her friends that she hung out with and played with as a child, it's been really nice to see them in their kinda natural inhabitant. It kinda reminds me of, like, wow, look at where we are now compared to, where we were, there at 30 years not seeing each other, but, like, wow, what a changeover of just, presence. And so it's more looking at reflection of time so far and, like, where
Mm,
have I been and where am I going and those types of things. But one thing I thought was really interesting is that they've already said, "Oh, there's an Ayurvedic yoga teacher on the island. You guys must
Mhm.
meet." And I thought it was really cute that her friend's partner has a gym here, and he's actually already, in the middle of creating and building, a bathhouse. So he's got a cold
Mm.
plunge and a hot tub and a sauna, and so he's kind of like, "What? Oh my gosh, maybe I should come along on this, clinical program you're doing in just a couple days. Like, maybe I should actually come on out there and learn Ayurveda and team up with this yoga teacher and put that in practice at the bathhouse that we're opening." And so I just find it very sweet that kind of everywhere I go in the world, there's somebody doing Ayurveda. Like,
Mm,
everywhere I've
mm,
gone, I met people in Greece, I met people in Spain, I've met people in all over Asia. I mean, it just Mexico. I mean, it seems like no matter where I go, there's somebody doing Ayurveda, and that's really pretty exciting, to think that it's that
mhm,
far out stretched out. And this month I was, more talking about global. My topic was global exploration, but it more ended up being about Portugal because I'm so dang excited. And I that's my reflection so far. It's like I'm on the most remote of all of the Azores Islands. I'm on the most remote island there is, and
mm.
there's an Ayurvedic yoga teacher. It makes me very happy.
Creating a bathhouse nonetheless. That's awesome.
And there's a
I'm sure
bathhouse
it's
going up, and they're
awesome.
like, "Why don't you teach this here next time? Just come here.
Yeah,
We'll take care of
perfect.
everybody." You know what I mean? And so but I'm a little attached to my nature wonderland that I found, Casa está
Mm.
Zenha, so we'll see, we'll see.
Lots of good options. Mm. Awesome. Well, we can dive right in with a couple of the questions that we weren't able to get to last time. The first being a request to know what to do after Plan B and how a person can help to kind of rehabilitate their hormones and their body after taking Plan B.
Okay. Yeah, so one of the most important things we can think of with this is, and I glad that it's being asked around hormones because, we have so many hormones that we create to build a baby, and when we make the choice, to let that, soul go and find its proper womb, which is our right, it is very important to not only do that decision making and that sloughing, and allow that soul to go find its mama. But it's also all these hormones are left behind in the body. The same thing happens after pregnancy. So it's not uncommon that we have this, and that's one of the things I talk about with postpartum depression. And I just want to be clear that Plan B depression is a real thing. So you can
Mm,
get a lot of depression and you think it's because, like maybe you're going through the struggles of like why you chose not to have a child. Some people it's not just I don't want one. Sometimes it's like financial or they already have a whole bunch or it's not the right person to have the baby with or there's so many variables, in life. So we don't want to think it's just this concept of somebody's like I don't want a child. So this can be a real struggle to even make this
mm,
decision. But depression after, I hear a lot of women go through that journey of like, am I depressed because I, made this decision or am I depressed? Why? I
mm,
felt clean on that decision. I got really clean. I said goodbye. I did the sacred work. It was my choice. I made it. Why? And it always comes down to these hormones that are needing to be flushed out of the body. So there's a few different ways we do this. Of course, hello, am I going to talk about the lymphatic system? Yes, I am.
of course.
Because one of the things that is really cool about it that most people really don't know, and I even say it multiple times in class, and I'll notice somebody just chimes in like, wait a minute, I heard that, even though I said it like 4 times already, which is our hormones move from one gland to another through the lymphatic vessels and nodes. So that's its
Mm,
thorough way. That's its river. That's why one of the reasons it's called the river of life is because it's one of the thorough ways for all of our hormonal self. And let's just face it, they're not going to figure out all the things around hormones medically until they look at them emotionally, because our
mm,
hormones are based on our chakra, our energy body, which is our inhale from the root to the crown. And then as we exhale, we go from the pineal to the pituitary, to the thyroid, to the thymus, and then down here to the pancreas, to the adrenals, and then to the reproductive.
mm,
And our pituitary governs our reproductive, even though it governs all of the glands. It specifically governs the reproductive. Like we don't have full luteinization, we don't have full follicle stimulation in our reproductive system without the excitability or the calm down of that pituitary, which is our third eye. So
mm.
it's all of them get fed by the pituitary, but the reproductive has a very, very important thing, which makes me think of like root chakra, reproductive, connected to our forward thinking, and what is our decision making for what we want our life to look like forward. So with plan B, a decision is made on what that's going to look like, and we got to get these hormones out. So, hey, if you don't have my lymph, if lymph is new to you right now, some of you are like rolling your eyes. Oh my gosh, it's lymph again. But guess what? If I get bored talking about it, we're all going to miss the lymph boat because there's so many hundreds of thousands of people who don't even know what the lymph is, even if I've been
Mhm,
talking about it for 35 years now. Like I was just
mhm,
at the Women's Herbal Symposium, and I teach to, groups of hundreds of people. We're doing breast checks and we're talking about the lymph system and we're checking uteruses, and there's lymph all around the reproductive down there too. And it's amazing how many people, and these are, well-educated, women. It's amazing how many are like, how would I not know what the lymph is? I'm a body worker. Or like, why has no one talked to me about the lymphatic system? I'm a lactation consultant. Like, I'm a
mm.
midwife. I'm a nurse. I mean, we even had someone who came up and she's like, I'm a doctor and I don't even know this. And so this is
Wow.
why, I will keep talking about it because it comes back to so many foundations of health. And if you haven't gotten my ebook, it's what, 6, $7 or something. You might as well get the ebook on lymph and get started because I put so much information into that ebook. I didn't want to hold back and make people kind of push for more. I actually chose to not do that and to really be like, no, I want to give you everything you need to know. And then you can do more on the breast health webinar or the lymphatic care webinar that I have, which are only 24 bucks. So there you're going to learn a lot about it. And why do you want to salt scrub? And why do we do some exercise? And why do you want to use your gua sha or dry brush, or even laugh? Because laughter is one
Mhm,
of the best ways to move the lymph, if you ask me, you know?
mhm.
And it's the funnest for sure, you know? So right? So,
Yeah,
the moving the lymph is gonna really pull you out of this slump of all those hormones that flooded you when you got pregnant, but now you've made a choice not to be, and you gotta get all of those out of there, and it's just about draining it because the lymph drains to the blood. Our lymph river meets our bloodstream, and then it goes down into the liver on the right rib cage, and the liver recycles or it dumps it as waste, depending on what's there, but it does
mhm,
recycle beautifully.
mm,
And then it sends it on over here to the left rib cage to the spleen, and that's our immune organ. It redevelops our immune and sends it back out to the lymph. So the entire system to think of that you want to care for in plan B is lymph to blood to liver to spleen. And that means you want to build your immunity. And that could even be like doubling up your vitamin C for 2 weeks. That's a really simple way to do it. And it also sloughs the reproductive. I mean, vitamin C is actually a well known abortive in very high amounts. So it has an inclination and a connection to that.
mm.
The other thing is you want to think about your amenagogues. And amenagogues are any herbs that make downward motion. Our most common one, eat tons of pesto. If you want a
Nice.
stronger one, yeah, basil is an amazing amenagogue. and the same thing you would do to flush out hormones or, flush out
Mhm.
that plan B would be the same thing we would do to activate a labor and
Mhm.
get downward motion happening. So that's one of the things we do. Someone's like, due date, when's this baby coming out? And we're
Yeah.
like, well, actually, you want to eat a whole lot of pesto and get
Yeah.
some downward motion happening and just wait, because it doesn't usually happen on due date, you
Mhm.
know? And so it's interesting how we use the same herbs and the same things are needed for whether
Mhm.
you are releasing a spirit or whether you're bringing in a spirit. And I just think that's an even bigger, broader conversation right now,
Mhm.
because everyone knows I am so pro-choice, it's no
Mhm.
new thing here,
Yeah.
so, this is a great question for that decision making, but they're the same things we do for,
Mhm.
bringing on labor and bringing on, getting back to your body. Gotta get those hormones out. So it really
Mhm.
becomes lymphatic care, amenagogues like basil. I'm just giving
Mhm.
you that's a really safe, easy one. You could do basil essential oil, and that wouldn't be
Mhm.
Tulsi holy basil, it'd be a sweet basil. I have
Mhm.
it in my store, and you'd wanna do 3 drops a day in your belly button. And that would act as a deeper amenagogue that would even flush out things like medications, like Plan B is a medication. So you
Mhm.
might wanna think about what is it, to also make sure that medication is out of your body, and that is
Mhm.
also downward motion. The other thing we do for downward motion is enemas. If you're not into enemas, and we do, like, small 3-cup seaweed tea enemas, so they're, like, not gonna strip you out and leave you, with no microbiome. Let's keep in mind seaweed has microbiome. So it's a great way to do it. But if you don't do enemas or you don't like enemas or you're just like, "Oh, I can't," because some people,
Mhm.
it's just not their jam. And if that's
Mhm.
the case, you could do purgative. Like, you could take calm magnesium, or you could do 2 teaspoons of licorice tea in a day for a couple days, and that'll bring on a purge and you'll
Mhm.
actually do it from the mouth all the way down through your plumbing, your GI tract.
Mhm.
So, downward motion and full body lymphatic flushing of those hormones are the 2 most important things we think of with something like a plan B. Yeah.
Those are
Now,
all
there's
great.
one other part of it. Do you have
Mhm.
another question?
Oh, no, those are great, all great answers. That's awesome.
Okay. There's one other part of it, which is I don't like to mess with rebuilding or trying to stabilize someone's menstrual cycle until it shows that it isn't returning. So I'm
Mhm.
always like, you know what? Give yourself a month or even 6 weeks because you might skip a little, ovulation period. So give yourself a moment, see if you
Mhm.
get back to your normal cycle. And if you do, you might just retrack yourself. And I think it's the smartest way is to see that your body is capable and then if that isn't happening within 6 weeks or so, another good reason for that basil is to kind of bring on menses, but, then you might wanna do some really good regulatory, like, you might wanna get on clary sage and
Mhm.
do clary sage for a couple months, and that would be 6 drops twice a day, and you could do that with 1 drop of vitex, and that would be once a day. So Vitex is very strong, clary sage is not. So 6 drops twice a day of the clary and just 1 drop of Vitex every day of the essential oil is what I'm talking about,
Mhm.
and I have both of those, and that would bring your cycle back on track within a couple months, and hopefully that's all that's needed. Otherwise, we'd have to see what's going on with that person's body from there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it's so important just trusting that the system will work itself out, but and just building that relationship with your body over time. That's
That's
beautiful.
right.
Great. Well, another question that I'm sure will lead us back to lymph is COVID
Oh boy.
recovering from COVID, but it's another wave going around. I know many folks in my life have been down with COVID again. So, any recommendations you have? I think my main symptoms were in the nose, in the chest, and headache, fatigue, fever. Now, mostly, my question is also around kind of like post-COVID exhaustion and how to rebuild energy and well-being.
Excuse me.
No, all good.
Woo!
So,
Something got me out here in the air.
questions, yeah, the beautiful sea air. One
I sound
being,
like I have COVID.
I hope I didn't pass it to you through the screen. No, gratefully, I'm all healed up. So,
No way. You
no
wouldn't
way.
do that. Okay. So, yes, I mean, we could reiterate this idea that the lymphatic system would be the smartest way to deal with COVID long term. And I have to say, so many people are coming to me with long COVID, and I'm not finding it to be a huge challenge. And I'm not finding it to be something that has to be long term. So that's the good news. I think the bad news on that concept is, again, the lack of education around what it is to touch ourselves, massage ourselves, and get the lymph moving. Excuse me. And not only that, but it's really hard to find a lymphatic specialist like near you unless you live in Sebastopol around a whole bunch of my students. Sometimes it can be really hard. So I do want everyone to know we're working on a referral system on our website. Please be looking for it. I'm going to say we'll have it up by the end of the year. But we see the need now that there is not a DeAnna Center to call and ask, who's in your area. We are hitting these places where people are like, I live in the middle of Chicago. What do I do? And so I am doing an entire referral system that's going to help people to know, where do you find a lymphatic specialist in your area if you're lucky to have someone there. But my students are pretty far stretched out at this point, and they are in many, many locations. So look forward to that, because I do feel like if I tell everyone to go get a lymphatic massage right now, which is what I want to tell you, you may not be able to find that. But if you can, I think it'd be really good to go and get on somebody's massage table and lay yourself down, surrender yourself if you're safe, and let somebody go in and detail your lymph and get into those little boggy bits and those lymph nodes that are clogged, and start really pumping them and moving them and shifting them. And you would be amazed. Some people are kind of like, I had one treatment and it's like my long COVID is gone. And I know from moving my lymph, and I had COVID way back, what was it, 2 Januaries ago. Scott and I bounced right back. And I think we felt like we bounced back because, we knew what to do. So that would be my suggestion. And, lymph is free when you touch yourself. So if you can't afford a massage, I mean, you can easily, just start rubbing your body and finding those sore spots and pumping a little bit and starting to get that to flow. And really, we need to know that this whole upper channel, like, when we get immune response and our body's fighting something, it talks in this upper lymph in the neck, right above the drain, and it talks in the sinus and all the lymph in here and the lymph in the brain. And so with that said, one of the most important things we can do is get all the mucus and crud out of your system. That's like got to be the most important thing. So you do want to think about expectorants. I'm going to give you a super cheap one that you could probably find in almost any parking lot anywhere. Rosemary, because it's used all the time. So you even look around town where you live and you're bound to find a rosemary plant that's at your disposal if it's not one in your backyard. So you want to be thinking about rosemary. And if you don't find a plant, that's okay, because you can buy it in the grocery store. And you just buy yourself some rosemary stalks, and you want to do about a 4-inch chunk, or stem, 4-inch stem, and you pluck off all those leaves throughout the day, and you just chew, and swallow them. And it's an amazing expectorant, really amazing expectorant. And if you feel like, no, I don't think this rosemary is going to cut it, I am a mucus ball, and you're really feeling it, because some people, that's what they're saying. They're like, I literally feel like a big old mucus ball. Like, what am I going to do? And that's when you want to think about Ellen campaign tea. But the biggie is getting rosemary essential oil. And it'll be a higher dose, it'll be a stronger dose, it'll get you there quicker. So I always like to give you the what's fresh, what's at your disposal, and what maybe doesn't even cost any money. I'm hoping there are people listening to these podcasts that don't have money. I'm hoping there's people listening to these podcasts that do have money. I'm a place for all people. So I always want to make sure I'm hitting that mark for my audience of just like what is going to be cheap and maybe not even cost you anything at all, and then what, you know, is what is something that you could buy and have and use that would be just a little more concentrated, a little stronger dose. And rosemary's inexpensive even as an essential oil. It's not a very expensive one. So I feel like it's a good way to go. Yeah. Yeah. And if I was going to give you a few more things, I mentioned Ellen campaign tea. You can also do Ellen campaign steams, and that's just making a pot of the tea. Take some of that tea out, you know, because you can drink it. And then the rest of that tea, you're just going to put a towel over your head, and you're going to just put that pot somewhere safe on a table with a heating with a pad, and just to save your table. And then you're going to put a towel over your head, and you are just going to take deep full breaths. And if you don't have Ellen campaign, you could also do that with rosemary. You could do that with ginger. It'd be more mild, but you could do it with mint. You could do it with eucalyptus leaves. If you have a tree around you, you could even do it with redwood needles. So think about steam inhalations. And then while you're under the steam tent, right? Because when we're under the steam, you can't see me. You can hear me. Excuse me. Jeez. But you can most something's in the air, sorry. But when you're under that steam, you can make sure that you use a gua sha or even your hands, and you can massage all around your face, and you can get up in your sinuses around your nose. You can move the lymph underneath your chin, all through your neck, and you can open up all this area. I think after this, I'm going to do a steam. In fact, I make something that's really amazing you can get on DeAnna Essentials, which are called steam tabs. And they're just steam tablets. And what you do is you boil water. You just throw one of those little steam tablets in there, and it makes an instant steam pot. And it's got a whole bunch of different essential oils that are expectorating and cleansing. They're more connected to the blood, and they're also connected to the upper channels of the lymphatic system. So that's where I would go with that, is really considering like steam inhalations, Ellen campaign, if you can find it, rosemary essential oil or rosemary leaves, and you can chew on them or make the steam with that also. And then make sure you go in and actually massage your sinuses and under your jaw and your neck. And that's really going to be one of the most important ways that you could drain all the mucus out of your body and get your lymph actively moving, which is how you would get on the other side of any virus. In fact, you could do that. Oh, I love this old, beautiful. It must be half after the hour. That's this beautiful, beautiful old cathedral that's right next door to where I'm staying. And I'm just so enjoying this beautiful chime that goes off on the regular. I am kind of glad, since I'm staying here, that it ends at 10. So I don't have to listen to it all night, but it is pretty powerful to wake up to also. Yeah. So not sure where Abby is. I'm just going to do some continuing on. I believe I'm still live, and I'm super excited to be here. So I can see if there's anything in the chat for us to see if anybody is here with another question. Doesn't look like it, and that is fine. So, if there are not any other questions, and if we don't have Abby back, that is fine, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Women's Herbal Symposium. So, the reason I want to talk about the Women's Herbal Symposium is I just think it's really important to look at breast health and to be considering like what that means. And I want to broaden it even a little bit more and take us to not only breast health, but also chest health. The way I like to look at this is first off, not everybody has breasts. Some people just have a chest and they may have chosen that. It may be from birth. It might have been because it's the only way they could have survived, like having a mastectomy. Maybe someone had top surgery. It doesn't matter if you have a chest, a breast, everybody has lymph around this area of the body. And the most beautiful thing about the Women's Herbal Symposium is we get access to so many different humans. So I thought I would share a little bit about the statistics and what we found at the symposium, and just a little bit about, you know, what it was like. So first off, I was there for 2 weekends, and in the 2 weekends, we saw 200, I believe it was 289 humans. So we saw 289 humans to get a breast or chest check. And out of that 289, I tried to keep count on the amount of cysts we found, and it was 193. So 193 out of 289 women had a cyst in their breast. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about the bigger picture of like we were there to do cancer prevention, and we did that too. And so we'll talk about that also. But the main thing was these cysts. And I would say cysts are the most common thing we find in breast issues. In fact, most people will even find a cyst and they'll think that they have a lump that's really scary. And so the first question we always ask, because some people come to us very, very scared, first thing we ask is, how much pain are you in? And when you touch that lump, you know, um, is there pain? And the most common thing is, oh my gosh, there's so much pain. It hurts so bad if I go in there. And this is the same when I'm working with someone with a chest. They may have found the cyst much quicker because there was no tissue. And so they found that cyst really quick because they swell. And that's kind of scary. But the pain is actually a good sign in the world of cancer. I'm not going to say that you can't have a cyst or pain in your breast and have cancer. But if you have a cancer tumor itself, the tumor itself doesn't have any pain whatsoever. So that's a huge difference. And I just want everyone to take a moment and maybe check your chest or check your breasts with me. And just what is it to get comfortable with your tissue? And what is it to get comfortable with this area and start feeling around? And I want everyone to know that we don't want to do a pat down. The days of the pat down are kind of, I hope over, because you're just pushing something away from your fingers. You want to pick up whatever tissue you have. It might be really easy. You might have, if you have smaller amount of tissue on your chest, it might be a little bit, more to handle if you have larger breasts on your chest, or even if you have a fuller chest itself. So you want to get comfortable though with like picking this up and starting to really look around. And if you have a flatter chest, then you're just picking up around your areola and your nipple, and you're just rotating. And I'm reading under with my fingers and above with my thumbs. And we're going to go each direction. This way, I can kind of get between my fingers this way, and I'm reading all around. And I'm going to go even deeper into this area. I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to read all around the perimeter. I'm going to read the 4 directions. And then I'm also going to do the extra pieces of the pie. So you're going to have like 8 slices of the pie. You know, you have your 4 directions and your 4 sub directions to check. And then you want to take around your areola and you just want to rotate your fingers and you want to start reading because a lot of things come up close to the nipple. And you're wanting to really assess like how much pain is in this chest tissue. So that's the first question, is how much pain is in this chest tissue? And then the second question is going to be, how fibrous is it down in this pec region? And this is where we have more muscle in our chest or breast area. And you want to get up under that pec. So you're not only going to check the chest very thoroughly, but you're also going to get up into the pecs. And then the most important piece here is going to be to know that that channel actually runs across your arm into your armpit and then all the way across your chest. So we don't want to forget about checking the armpits. And it is really common that you can get cysts in the armpits, which is what we're talking about now. And we can also form tumors that we don't want to be forming under the armpits or in that pec area. In fact, I would say that's one of the most common regions for someone to develop a cancer tumor. So this is some of the most important things from what we were doing at the symposium and checking for these cysts that I think are so important. And the way we know them, again, most important thing to know is they hurt. So if I go in and start really checking thoroughly, and all of a sudden I find a little hot spot, and it's like, a little sharp pain, literally. You might hit it before you know it. You're not hurting yourself, but you are assessing, like, wait a minute, cysts hurt. And sometimes what we'll do is we'll just press right into it and we'll stay there and it'll radiate a little heat off of it. And that's the most common thing we found at the symposium is, this 189 humans out of, I think it was 193 out of 289 humans had a cyst in their chest or breast cavity. Now, how do we get them? Okay, I got to mention a few foods that cause cystic behavior. One of them is going to definitely be nuts, chocolate, coffee, and table salt. Okay? Nuts, chocolate, coffee, and table salt. I'm so sorry. Those are really lovely things. But they do make cystic activity very quickly. This is a very well-known fact in the medical world. So just letting you know that's something to consider. And I think the other thing to consider is the fact that it could be from yeast overgrowth. So that means you need to maybe go off of sugars and look at another direction like that. Wow. I should have done this inside, I think, because this air is getting to me, but I am going to just take one moment here.
Thanks so much, DeAnna. My Wi-Fi was having some problems there, so I'm glad that I was able to reconnect. Thanks for keeping it going. And I actually have another personal question this week that I think also pertains to some other friends and people, but I twisted my ankle and and I'm having some swelling and just pain. So gratefully I'm still able to walk. But I know that oftentimes, there's kind of an ongoing joke that people will twist their ankle and then it stays that way for for years on end, which I don't think will be my case. But I was curious if you have any favorite essential oils or other things that you put on twists and sprains, or for you it's really about gua sha and just moving the lymph. And I was also curious if you recommend using gua sha right away, or if it's something that you would wait a few days to kind of let the body recuperate and yeah, not be messed around with.
Okay. Well, first off, let me just say I sprained my ankle a couple months ago, and you can
Hmm.
see, as you've been hanging out with me, I'm walking pretty good.
Hmm.
So you will recover.
Yes.
And one of the most important things, let's talk about injury for a minute. And one of the things you want to know with injury is that you really do need to rest it and put it up really high as long as you possibly can and as often as you possibly can. Because one of the ways that we truly heal is through getting off that foot. So if you're
Hmm.
hobbling around getting yourself water, because you don't want to ask anyone to help you, you're not
Hmm.
really helping your long-term picture of healing.
Mm.
So the most important thing you could do right now is to like ask for help
Mhm.
and stay off of it and
Mhm.
make sure that it goes through that first really truth, the truth in Ayurveda and in the function of the tissues is our muscles take about 15 days to heal from an
Mm.
injury to, onward. So that's without a broken bone.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean you got to stay in bed for 15 days and whoo, because you got a little travel to do, but but it definitely changes, switches things up a little bit for like how much you can get done. So you're going to have to be really smart about how often can you get off that foot. And we do
Mhm.
not gouache on injury directly, but what we
Mhm.
do is we make sure that you're gouache on basically what we call upstream. So you can gua
Mhm.
sha like it's your ankle. So you can gua sha behind your knee. You can gua sha your calves, your knee, your thighs, your hips, and even your torso and your upper body. But you would
Mhm.
leave that ankle alone. And the
Mhm.
reason you still want to open up the upper channels would be, the idea of opening the upper channels would be that like, the swelling you got from that injury, which actually came to your rescue, that swelling came to your rescue to help you out. But the issue with that swelling after it helped you is that we can't heal until the swelling is gone. So true
Mhm.
healing is not happening in an injury until that swelling is gone.
Wow.
And that's a very, very important detail.
Mhm.
So I just want to really kind of be like, okay, well, how are you going to move that fluid? Your lymph made that fluid.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure that you open upstream and make sure that fluid has somewhere to drain to. And that's how you're going to heal the quickest, staying off of it and really making sure you do some motivation upstream.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you've got a few essential oils that just could really rock that tissue right now, one being marjoram.
Mm.
Marjoram is incredible for antispasmodic and calming down muscles so that they get relaxed enough to heal. Muscles sometimes will start, like, going into tension holds, they are the emotion of control.
Mhm.
So it's kind of interesting to me that it's the
Mhm.
emotion of control and here, we wanna, start using it,
Mhm.
so that marjoram really is a muscle tamer, and it's gonna help it to kinda calm down, take away a little bit of the pain,
Mhm.
and just help you to kind of, like, make sure that none of the muscles in that region are kinda jacked up in tension and not allowing you to let that area really get to its healing place.
Mm.
So marjoram would be my essential oil go-to. The other
Mhm.
one, frankincense is really awesome.
Mm.
You could even go the cheaper route and just make sure you're doing 10 drops of lavender a day.
Mhm.
But when I had my injury, I was on about 20 drops of marjoram a day, but it kept me out of pain, and I didn't
Mhm.
have to take ibuprofen.
Mhm.
which I really enjoy, being able to figure out how to deal with pain,
Mhm.
on my own. Sometimes you cannot. So
Mhm.
totally fine if someone takes ibuprofen for a couple days, and then gets that marjoram to work and gets the swelling down, and then the
Mhm.
pain starts going away on its own.
Mhm.
But
And
yeah,
that
that's gonna
that
be an
marjoram
important
or lavender, is that internal or external?
external. All the essential oils are gonna be transdermal, so that you're gonna put directly on the injury itself.
Mhm.
Yeah, unless you have an open wound.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're gonna go somewhere else around that area. They are
Mhm.
transdermal, so those essential oils are going straight into your bloodstream,
Mhm.
but if you have a wound, I'm not gonna I wouldn't wanna put those essential oils straight in the wound. You could put lavender in a wound, but you
Uh-huh.
wouldn't wanna put marjoram in a wound.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Actually, a follow-up question I have is oftentimes when I get sick or injured, then I don't really know when to like move and kind of move it through or when to like really rest. And so I was curious if you have kind of like a rule of thumb in terms of like whether it's like a fever or a cold or like an injury. I know it probably really depends case to case, but if you have like kind of a go-to when you're deciding whether you're gonna like keep kind of moving and keep yourself kind of like flushing through that the injury or moving through the injury, and when you really take time to just rest and not do anything. Oh, may have lost you there for a second. Well, are you
Yay.
there?
So, I did hear your question.
Mhm.
You were wondering about, kinda when do you start walking on it, or, like, when is it safe to start utilizing that ankle,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So, if you injured your ankle to a point where you couldn't even step on it when you tried to walk,
Mhm.
like, literally your body will not let you take a step on that foot, then you're looking at a good 10 days of how much rest can you get,
Mhm.
and how little can you use that foot, and you would wanna get crutches
Mhm.
and hop around on crutches,
Mhm.
or think about crawling to the bathroom when you need to go to the bathroom, like either
Yeah.
one, but literally, you wanna think about that, you know?
Mhm.
If you were injured to the point where you can step on it, but it's like, "Ah, ooh, it
Mhm.
hurts," but you could step on it, you could use it if you had to, then
Mhm.
you know that your injury probably needs a good 5 days or so of rest,
Mhm.
and then you'd be able to start, slowly using it little bits at a time.
Mhm.
So, really trusting an injury according to, like, does it stop you from using it completely? Because your
Mhm.
muscles will, like, literally be like, "Don't you dare," you
Yeah.
know? Then you know your injury's bigger, you know? And unfortunately, the truth is ankles do have, and let's have you knock on wood here, Abby, but, ankles do have a little bit of a once they've been injured, you can easily repeat that injury within a year's time
Mhm.
because it's a weight-bearing ankle.
Mhm.
So, I'm gonna just be full disclosure, I sprained my ankle, in Greece last September,
Mhm.
and I could hobble on it, but man, I sprained it bad.
Mm.
But I could slightly hobble, and it took me 2 weeks of resting as much as I could, but I was in Greece, so I couldn't rest all the time, you
Oh,
know? I know, and I had to really, stay off of it. But I probably used it more than I should have, and I don't think I'm just full disclosure, I was in a situation where I did use it and I shouldn't have,
Mhm.
and I tried to be really good. I was trying to be
Mhm.
a good girl,
Yep.
you know what I mean? But I was in the middle of Greece, and
Mhm.
so, I ended up injuring it again
Mhm.
because it had healed in a weak way. So this second time around, I actually messed it up even worse, and I couldn't even
Mhm.
like my body was like, You ain't walking, like
Mhm.
you're down."
Yeah.
And I literally had to cancel 2 weeks of my life and just like not.
Mhm.
And now it healed really beautifully, but I
Mhm.
literally had to be like, "I don't even know what this will look like financially."
Mhm.
It's really scary to take 2 weeks off, and I've got people to take
It
care
is.
of, and I'm disappointing people who had appointments.
Mhm.
And I book months in advance. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So now I'm canceling. Oh my gosh, so bad.
Yeah.
But I had no choice. I can't work with an ankle like that.
Mhm.
So I took the time off. I healed it properly, and I feel
Mhm.
really different this time around.
Mhm.
But I did not heal it properly in Greece. No matter how much I teach, no matter how much I know, I was in those one of those precarious situations where,
Mhm.
you know, we needed to get to the next island. We needed to, get to some food, and I really had to get around. So
Mhm.
so anything I can do to encourage you to stay off of it as long as you can.
Mhm.
Like, this
Yeah.
is gonna sound like a really silly suggestion, but sometimes people need to hear these things, and it's actually perfect for a podcast because there's somebody out there listening to this, not just you, who has an
Mhm.
injury or had an injury, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I so wish I would have rested more," you
Mhm.
know? But I mean, I would even consider if you're still in pain and you're getting ready to leave to Portugal, you really should ask when you get to the airport for the wheelchair
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
instead of trying to trek all that distance and you
Mhm.
affect your ankle because your ankle's already going to be affected on a long airplane ride,
Mhm.
just
Some
because.
compression
So,
socks. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. It's always such
Um,
a good reminder with injuries that of just how important rest is and how our society is really not set up for rest, and that can be so challenging. So, at least kind of US dominant go 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 culture. So, I feel like that's definitely a part of this work is creating these new economic and healthcare systems that allow people to take time to rest when they need to and take time off of work and not have so much of that financial pressure because it's really hard for most people to take time off of work, and so many people's jobs kind of require them to keep moving and going. So that's definitely something I want to continue advocating for because it's always a humbling experience when you get sick or an injury or something. It's like, wow, our
oh,
world is really just not set up for this.
oh, dude, let me tell you, I'm just gonna say it quick, but here I am in Greece. I just grew out my gray hair.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed very much in Greece that people my age, 53,
Mhm.
everyone's still totally coloring their hair,
Uh-huh.
like Europe's like they color their hair a little bit more, you know what I mean? And so I was
Mhm.
like, no one is gray here, and I am totally gray, and I'm a young gray, and it was really pulling me, but like I made a commitment and I'm actually really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And, it was just an interesting thing. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gray. I look old. This is interesting. My whole life has changed?"
Mm.
And then I sprained my ankle, and then I had to give in. And I was traveling with someone, and they brought me a cane from the store, and I was just like, "No!" I mean, I was like, "No, I am not using a cane." And I was
Uh-huh.
like, "There's no other way I'm gonna get around." I had to,
Mhm.
so now I've got gray hair and a cane, and then we have to go and get on the plane to Crete, and she's like, "DeAnna, you really need a wheelchair. Like, this is a
Mhm.
long corridor." And so finally I was like, "Okay." So then I was, newly gray in a wheelchair in the
Mhm.
airport, and I just thought to myself, "Wow, what a humbling experience, and
Mhm.
interesting that I'm equating this to age or being old instead of just having an injury and I need to take care of myself."
Mhm.
Interesting,
Yeah,
right?
it really is, and
And I
it's
had to
so
really
hard.
hold that edge. I had to be like, "This is
Mhm.
not about age. This is about
Mhm.
smart."
Definitely.
So, just
Yeah,
sharing a little story if it helps you feel any better.
definitely. Someone from the chat says, "Love the gray, by the way. I think it looks better."
I don't know who that is. Let me look and see.
Courtney
Oh,
Courtney.
Courtney. Oh, hi,
Yeah,
Courtney.
I think your hair looks
Oh.
beautiful too. I love it.
What
Yeah,
else
and
does Courtney say? She has a question. Um, hey, can you use the same lymph for Plan B for moving menopause hormones, or either in a menopause? Absolutely. I feel like moving my lymph has changed my menopause experience in massive ways. Like people, I mean, I've been working with people because I started so young in my practice. I've been working with people older than me most of my life as my clients because I started so young. So
Mhm,
I have seen hundreds and hundreds of women through menopause. And I always thought, if I do all this self care, if I take my teas, if I move my lymph, like
mhm,
what will my menopause be like? Will it be different? Because menopause in my family is horrid.
mhm,
So I'm like, can I change that? Or is that just genetics as we chalk it up to things? And I got to say, I mean, I have had the most amazing menopause ever. I'm like, I totally
nice.
changed my life. I made huge decisions that have better served me than any decisions I've ever made. I let my gray grow. I just kind of like really went for it. And I've just
Mhm,
done my lymph and I've done all my self care. I've continued going to the bathhouse. You know, I might have sold it, but I got privileges in that selling of the bathhouse. And I just keep doing my steams and doing my cold plunges and doing my bathing rituals once a week because most people know, including Courtney, that I'm totally into doing 3 hours of self care every week as part of
mhm.
my healthcare plan, my primary healthcare. And I've only had some hot flashes. I have maybe, I don't know, 4 hot flashes a day. And I'm not even ripping my clothes off. I'm just kind of like, whoa, whoa, okay, whoa, okay. You know, got a little sheen on my face, like, okay, but like it's just like I'm out in the sun or something or working out in my garden, you
Mhm,
know? So, I look at my genetics, I look at, just the nature of menopause, and then I look at how I went through it. It's just a whole nother reason why that lymph care and all the self-care practices are just so incredibly supportive.
mhm.
I think I
Wow.
slid right through just like I've been doing kinda most of my life. I'll knock on wood now, but,
Yeah.
know, I mean, I've had a really good run. I had most of my illnesses as a child. I
Mhm,
was sickly as a child and very obese and had some issues for sure. I was born with a tumor in my esophagus,
mm,
so I really had some issues. But as I've been doing Ayurveda and doing self-care and becoming nutritionist and looking at my food, I mean, I'm
mhm,
just kind of blown away. It's like I almost feel like I'm getting healthier every year
mm.
more
Wow.
than getting sicker or aging every year. It's very interesting, and maybe it's planetary. Some people get sick later in life, some people get sick early in life. Some people
Mhm,
are sick their whole life, like my mama. She
mhm,
was sick her whole entire life. It was almost a relief when she left the world,
mm,
so everyone's got different journeys,
mm,
and different levels of suffering and different ways of suffering. But Courtney, oh, I hope you're doing so well. And she made a bold move last year that hopefully moved her lymph, and I hope she's feeling good from those decisions she made last year. And yeah, I would say that is a great way to make sure that you're flushing those hormones so your body can reestablish the new normal. Menopause
mhm,
is positive change, means you're
mhm,
running on wisdom.
mm,
May not have the same hormones, you may not have the same amount of energy, but you've got the wisdom to make better decisions on how much energy you have and what can you really do in a day. Oop,
mhm.
here goes the cathedral chime once again.
That's
It's
yeah,
right here next door.
mm. Well, that's so inspiring to hear. I think so many people fear getting older for fear of, all the changes and potential illnesses and things. So it's just awesome that you're just able to keep on feeling great and keep on feeling better every year. But you're still young,
Mhm.
so
I feel great.
yeah.
Hey, there's one more question in the chat. You think we should answer it?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, my chat questions disappeared when my Wi-Fi went out, but maybe you can
So the
answer it.
question is, what do we do to prepare for fall?
Mm.
Yeah. So fall and spring are cleansing times a year. And the reason we cleanse in the fall is so that we get all the mucus, which is very similar to that COVID conversation earlier, right?
Mhm.
Get the mucus out, that's how you heal. It's very similar to get the because mucus is an immune response, and when we get like swollen with an injury, that's immune response. The
Mhm.
same they're both the same, which is we got to get the mucus out, we got to drain excess fluids out of our body so we have the most sustainable immune system to take us through winter.
Mm.
So we spring in the we cleanse in the fall and in the spring for that
Mhm.
reason. We want to get all the muck out of our system. We want to clear out the plumbing of the
Mhm.
intestines, and we want to make sure that we, clear out all the upper channels.
Mhm.
Um, and that allows us to go into hibernation for winter.
Mm.
And this is considered blood detox time of year.
Mhm.
There's some really great plants that are underutilized for blood cleanse that are really, really simple that, might even be in your cupboard right now as a tea. So
Mm.
one of them is, I'll tell you a whole list of them: peppermint,
Mm.
lemon balm, cinnamon, cardamom, tulsi. And if you put those together as a combination tea, it tastes so good. And you can
Yeah,
make a
so
sun tea. There's a reason why we make a lot of sun teas this time of year is because you want to get as much sun in your body as you can because it
good.
won't last forever. So
Uh-huh.
I really do talk about sun teas, the fact that the sun will beam down on those herbs in your water, in your garden, in your yard, or in your windowsill. And you'll infuse that tea over the day's time. And then you could drink a little at night, and then you have a tea for tomorrow. And we do flush this time of year. You want to flush the kidneys, which means more water, might even be more peeing. But if you drink more water and you pee more, you are flushing out your kidneys as well as your blood, and your kidneys filter your blood. So,
Mm.
again, herbs were cinnamon, cardamom, tulsi, and then you could also do peppermint and lemon balm and ginger. If you run a little cold and you're even like, it's going to be getting cold soon, put ginger in there because you might as well just kind of get a nice ample amount of heat in you. And
Mhm.
that's how we build up our insulation. We clean our
Mhm.
blood, insulate our blood, we get warm,
Mhm.
and um, and that's how we prepare for winter. It's like, making sure we're canned and ready in the cupboard. You know,
Uh-huh.
seriously, you know.
Totally.
And this is also why late summers when we see all the chiles, right? People are
Mm.
always like, why are there chiles late summer into fall? Like it doesn't really make any sense. They're hot and it's hot. But I don't know if
Uh-huh.
y'all know this, but in India, the hotter the time of year, the more chiles they eat.
Open up the blood or open up the pores and let the
Yep,
heat out.
yep. Because it'll sweat out, which to let out fire is to sweat.
Mhm.
And they also do it because the more you meet the heat, the more you transform the heat into blood cleansing.
Mm.
So
Wow.
you don't want to overdo it, but I do find that interesting. I noticed that just the food is spicier in late summer. And it's like, is that because the chilies are coming out of the garden and they want to use them or what? And it's like, nope, we're preparing for winter. So fall is winter hibernation.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to go a little more of an energetic direction. And then I think we're going to be finishing up for the day. But the energetic thing I want to talk about for fall, and I mention this each fall, so some of you may have heard this before, but fall is follow through, just like
Mm.
the leaves are falling off the trees. This is follow through time of year. So we want to know that basically this is the time of year where you want to look and say, what did you start? What projects did you start in spring If you started in a natural cycle, we start projects in spring. We spring forward with a project, then we blossom the project in summer, and then we have to follow through, because if you don't follow through in fall, there is no hibernation. I'm gonna see if I can get this lighting better. Oh, that's so much better. So if we do the spring forward and we blossom in summer, if we don't follow through in fall, we really have no ability to hibernate in the winter. And that is one of the key factors, is looking at that idea of like, how are we going to get enough done now that we can actually hibernate safely in winter? And that's the other concept of canning. This is the time of year where everyone would start like getting all the apples and the rest of the fruit, or at least this season time of fruit. And you'd start having all your tomatoes and your chilies and the last of the, squashes and zucchinis. And we would start chopping all those up and canning them and prepping for that winter time, so that hibernation doesn't take you into full-on survival. So, the only way I really get time off in winter, and I do take time off every winter, and the only way I do that is by following through in fall, making sure that I button up whatever project I have. If the project is longer than a year, then I'm also saying, hey, we're going to do a little less in winter. Let's do a little bit more now. Even, doing my Portugal trip in fall is really good. We'll have really easy diets, and it'll be a cleansing environment with all the water around. And that's just going to be such a beautiful thing to be able to then be like, okay, I took a little trip. Now I can relax and not worry about what I'm doing in winter. I could just hibernate a little bit more. So that's a little bit about what fall represents in Ayurveda.
It's such good inspiration for this final push. I definitely feel that in the air right now. It's like, okay, just wrapping up all these things, and it still feels a little busy, but it's like, okay, we're having the busy times now, so then we can have the good rest and relaxed time during the winter. And happy equinox. Thanks, Courtney.
Yes.
Yes, what a perfect day to be talking about fall.
I know. Such a sweet, sweet time, isn't it? And I can't believe I'm out here where I can see the whales and the dolphins, and there's another island right on the other side. You might be able to see it just a little bit in the back. I don't know. There's a volcano back there. Not so active. But it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Well, you just look radiant, and the whole area looks so beautiful. So I'm glad you're soaking it up. I'm excited to be joining you soon.
Yes. And really, honestly, Abby, I would give you the suggestion to, like, if you're not walking well by the time you go to get on that plane, I really would not hesitate to ask for a wheelchair. I mean, who cares?
Totally.
I mean, you could wrap up your ankle and make it real obvious. You're like, yep. I'm one of those. I'm that person this time, But you might really want to think about just like, don't barrel through, be really smart so that you have long-term use of that ankle and it doesn't become an issue for you down the line. And hey, by the way, that cane is at my house.
Okay, great.
You need it. It's there.
Awesome. It's a good practice in letting other people take care of me.
Sometimes that's what it's like. I'm sure you're very good at taking care of people in their time of need too.
It's true. It's exactly why we have community.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for all of your wisdom and all these great tidbits that we can all incorporate in our lives. And looking forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, I will see you in just a little shy of a week here. And yeah, and may you heal beautifully so that it's just effortless for you to make your way here and enjoy Portugal. And by the way, I made a video yesterday, and I'm sure Courtney is going to be putting it up on Instagram and Facebook. But I just wanted to do one little shout out here for anyone who's here live. I have 2 spots left for Portugal. If somebody is feeling super spontaneous and you actually have the time off, but let's just say there's a chance you didn't have the money right now, but you actually had the time, and it's obstructing you coming.
I think you may have frozen, DeAnna. But everyone should definitely go and check out the be sure to go check out the Instagram and the Facebook. You can find us at DeAnna Essentials, and I'm sure that everything she was explaining about a spontaneous trip to Portugal will be there. And so you might just be able to join us. That would be great. Okay, I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Happy fall equinox.